Hello and welcome to Unit 501, Understanding and Developing Customer Accounts, part of the ISMM Level 5 Diploma in Sales and Marketing. In this video we're going to look at Learning Outcome 3, which I'll introduce you to in more detail shortly. Hopefully you've already seen the videos on Learning Outcomes 1 and 2. If not, you can hop back there and see those first and do the work associated with those first. If you wish, you can watch this one first and then go back to those at some point. But you do need to make sure that you cover them all. So let's have a look at what Unit 501 is all about. It's really about understanding your customers better, and it's about developing the tools, the techniques, the skills and the approaches and the knowledge behind how your customers work. That will then help you both support existing customers and by understanding how customers go about choosing the suppliers to work with, how to go about winning more new customer business as well. So to look at the specific learning outcomes in this unit, there are 5 of them. The first one is about understanding the buying practices of customers. How do they actually go about deciding who to work with and who to buy from? Learning Outcome 2 is understanding customer support issues. How do we support our customers and get value out of supporting those customers and give that value to them? Learning Outcome 3, which is the subject of this video, is understanding your own organisation's unique business value. Because if you want to position your organisation well in your customers' minds or your potential customers' minds, you really need to understand what the unique business value is. What is your positioning in the marketplace? Learning Outcomes 4 and 5, which will be the subject of later videos, will be looking at being able to prepare for customer procurement and understanding the customer procurement process, and also being able to use information gathered to develop a plan to get into new customer accounts. So let's have a look specifically at Learning Outcome 3, understanding your own organisation's business value. This learning outcome just splits into 2 sub-learning outcomes. Number 1, evaluating your own organisation's activity plans in relation to customers. So what are you doing, when are you doing it, and how does that fit in with the structure of your customer's activity plan? And then secondly, evaluate your own organisation's ability to respond to customer buying requirements. How flexible are you and how dynamic are you? As with a lot of material in the Level 5 Diploma, these are really industry specific. So it's your job to translate what we're going to talk to you about now into your particular industry. But what I want to do here is introduce you to a couple of models by the world famous Michael Porter that will look at ways of understanding your business, ways of modelling your business so that you can be clear on what lies behind a lot of the decisions that your organisation takes. The first one is Michael Porter's generic strategy. This model looks at what the overall strategy of an organisation, where is it positioned? And there are 4 areas, divided up by the scope. Is it a narrow or broad organisation that you have? And where does your competitive advantage come from? Is it by being different or is it a cost differentiation that enables you to have competitive advantage over your competition? So let's look in a bit more detail at each of these 4. Let's look to start with at the cost leadership area. Cost leadership is, excuse me, all about actually being the cost leader in an industry. It's about being no frills, regardless of where you operate. So if you look at something like the Easy organisation, EasyJet is the obvious one, but on its own that would be cost focus. For cost leadership, it's about the brand. Easy can be in lots of different areas, Easy Hotels and so on. You know what it is because it's offering cost leadership in every individual area. There's only one way to actually maintain your relationships in that cost leadership area, and that's actually by having a really efficient internal structure. Making sure that perhaps you've got economies of scale, you can buy more cheaply than anybody else, making sure that the way that you operate is absolutely driving cost out of the system, because ultimately, if you don't do that and if you aren't better at doing that than other people, then you won't actually have a competitive advantage at all. So that has got to be the focus of an organisation looking for cost leadership. And you need to answer the question, is that you? The next area to look at is differentiation. Actually, are you uniquely different to other people in the market? And again, at this sort of broad level, what we're looking about is high quality, high service level products that can span lots and lots of different areas. These are the sort of premium brand offerings that, because of the premium nature, are things that other people find it really difficult to compete against. A lot of it is around the brand values in that area as well. Really, really desirable products and services. Looking down at the cost focus area, so we're going into this narrow section down at the bottom of Porter's generic strategy now. In terms of narrow cost focus, what it is being really, really niche, really, really specialised in what you offer, only just doing that one thing. Is yours the sort of organisation that you do one thing and you do one thing really well, drive all the cost out, and you keep it really simple and really, really focused? And then the final one from a differentiation point of view is, forgetting the cost part, again, are you really focused on offering something in a niche that nobody else does? You are the only organisation, or one of very, very few organisations, who operates in this particular market. If you want this particular type of widget, there is only one place to go. So have a look at your organisation and have a look at where you might fit within those particular areas. Are you a cost leader? Do you offer broad differentiation versus the market? Are you really focused and niche in what you do? And is that about being niche and only operating in one particular sector on your own? Or is it actually about driving cost out of that sector in a way that nobody else can? So have a think about where your organisation fits. The next thing to look at is then taking that information and looking at the strengths and weaknesses of playing in each of those 4 areas of the Porter's generic strategy. So I'm pretty sure you'll be familiar with SWOT analysis, so I'll run through this fairly briefly. The strengths and weaknesses are the internal part. So from your organisation's point of view, what's good or helpful about this particular strategy that you've decided you're choosing, and what's potentially harmful or weak about that. And then look at it from an external point of view, to look at the opportunities and threats. What does this particular strategy mean in terms of opportunities to do other things outside your organisation, and the threats from outside your organisation as well? So that's how we look at things from using the SWOT tool alongside Porter's generic strategies. The second Porter model that we're going to have a look at is the 5 forces model, which you will be familiar with if you've already been through Learning Outcome 1 in this particular unit. In case you haven't, I'm just going to run through this, but I will run through it really briefly. It's important to try and understand what the relationship is in your market between the various components that put competitive forces within that market. The most common one, which is this blue segment down at the bottom, is looking at competitive rivalry within the market. Actually, what are other people doing in your business? Who are you competing against? Who are your biggest competitors? And actually, although that seems relatively straightforward to do, it actually takes quite a lot of work to get really good information to find out what are your competitors doing. You can ask your customers, by all means, find out information from them. They may offer more than you would expect in some cases. But actually go and do the research as well to really understand how strong or weak this particular force is. Then working around the other 4 forces, over on the far side, we've got the bargaining power of suppliers. In any particular industry, it's really important to understand the nature of the relationship between you and your suppliers. Because if their bargaining power is very strong, they can actually change the market for both you and your competitors. If they've got the ability to put up prices, to change the format of the products and services that they supply as inputs to your organisation and other organisations, then they're in control of the market. They have much more power, much more dominance in the market than you would do. So it changes the dynamic of the overall market, and it's something to be really conscious of. How many different suppliers have you got to choose from is one of the simplest measures of the strength of the bargaining power of suppliers in your industry. The next one working around is the bargaining power of customers. Even big organisations can work with customers who have huge bargaining power. Many years ago, I worked for Procter & Gamble and I worked on the Walmart business. And at the time, I'm not sure what the statistic is now, but at the time, Walmart was roughly 25% of Procter & Gamble's global business. Now, if you think about one customer having 25% of your business, they are in a hugely powerful position. And yet you might look at an organisation like Procter & Gamble and say, do you know what? Huge, big, powerful organisation can pretty much do what they want. Well, do you know what? Walmart had an awful lot of bargaining power because they accounted for 25%. It's one of the simplest measures that you can do. Look at your customer base and do a very quick market share analysis, effectively, of what is the share for your different customers of your business. It'll give you an indication of how strong they are versus you. The third one round is the threat of new entrants. How easy or how difficult is it for new entrants to enter your marketplace? Different industries are really, really different with it. If you wanted to set up a new bank, for example, it's very difficult to actually just start a bank from scratch. But if you're looking at coffee shops or a small restaurant or something like that, it's relatively easy for a new competitor to come into your market. So that, again, changes the dynamic of your particular industry, your particular marketplace. And then the final one around this outer loop is the threat of substitute products. What is it that could come in that actually replaces you? And that's one of the hardest things to find out, because hand on heart, we all tend to think our product is fantastic, the service that we offer is brilliant, why would anybody want anything else? And we seem to think and position ourselves at the leading edge of the curve in our particular industry in most of the time. And we get focused. It's the classic example of not being able to see the wood for the trees. But it's really important to step back from time to time and think about the threat of substitute products. What would happen if something came in from the outside and just replaced us? So have a real think about those things, because this changes the nature of the marketplace you offer it, and it helps you to really understand how your industry and how your business within that industry operates. So let's finish this section by having a look at the task to complete. Customer charters are one element of it, a plan for how you will support and react to customers' needs, and a lot of that is driven by all of the dynamics in your industry. In terms of the Porter's 5 forces, but also the choice you have made in terms of your positioning within that industry. And that's where Porter's generic forces come in, your generic strategies. Look at a method for evaluating it. You might have a customer charter in place. This is how we're going to deal with customers. Using the same customer that you looked at in task 1 as part of learning outcome 1, think about what the plan is to support that customer in all of the required relevant areas. Use the generic strategies in the 5 forces model to look at your company's ability to deliver business value into that customer. And if you remember back to learning outcome 2, we looked at the value chain analysis, and that will help you decide actually where is that value going to be inserted into the relationship that you have with your customer. The final part is also to critically evaluate and quantify your organisation's ability to respond quickly, efficiently, and in a good manner to customer demands, and give actual examples. And if you can give examples on the other side as well, that would be useful, because actually that can then enable you to look at the changes that need to be made. Good luck with task 3, and once you've completed that, please be ready to move on to learning outcome 4. Thank you.